Hi, I want to address some of the concerns that you guys had in the reflections. Some of you had some issues, some of you had some concerns, and some of you didn't have anything to look at. So I want to be clear about this chapter. We covered so far partially. Let me get there when we get to the questions. So I want to go over some of the concerns that you guys have. So if I don't respond to your concern or I missed it for some reason, you can put it in a DQ or let me know. I can go over it with you guys. So one of the question was if the indentation is key to writing compound statement and function, how will we do this in the exam? So one of the things that I want to mention in the exam, the concern is not a compiled code. The concern is, do you know how to write a code? And of course, you can always use spaces to indent them. You can always write it on a text file and submit it. The concern on the test is not for you to compile and run the test. The concern in the test is how many of you know this task to do it. So if I say write a for loop or write a method or function, how many of you without doing any kind of a reference can you sit down and write it right away? So that's the concern in the test. And if the indentation is off and all those things, that's okay. I'm not expecting you to compile it. I'm not gonna compile it myself. I'm just gonna address the code itself. So the other one is talking about the formatting. I understand the formatting can be a little tricky, or sometimes we think that it's a little more work that we can do it in different way. So when you get to write your data, especially if you have a lot of data and you want to write them in the columns, so let's say that you have tons of uh, tons of data and you want to write them in a column. Remember, when we writing to the file, and we learned that a little later, or any other places, for the file we have two types of file. One, we're writing a file for another program to pick it up, and one, we're writing the file for human to look at it. So if another program is going to pick it up, if it's not very organized, fine. But if another person is going to be looking at, or we're going to create a report, or somebody going to come in and look at the data, we want to have them in a column and in an organized way. And that's the time that you're really going to be using this formatting that we're learning over here. And again, Python has tons of stuff available to us. So there are some other formatting that you can look at it. I just don't want to throw too many things at you at the same time. DeMorgan Law, I think that's something that we should have uh, consider and talk about it in CS2 or other classes. So the idea is if you put a not outside of and an or, we have to be careful. So if I have, let's say I'm going to have not A and E. So we might think about this, and the way that we might write it is not A and B. So we are thinking about the first one, not A and B. Let me change it so we're thinking about not A and B, but we're going to be writing it this. So these two statements are not the same. And that's where the DeMorgan law is going to come to play. When you apply the not inside of this, is going to be changed to not A or not B. So this is something that we have to think about, and that's where we can get into some issues because we are thinking about it this way, but we're going to be writing it about this way. And the other way is for not A or B is going to be the same as not A and not B. So that's what it is. It's gonna you're gonna have some kind of a logic class. You have it in philosophy, you have it here in computer science, you have it in different departments, and that's the whole idea of the logic that you can apply these things and it's gonna work. So one way of not to confuse this is you build the so you don't think about the not first. You just think about how is this going to be true? And then you build your whole expression, and then you put the not at the end of it. So if you say A and B, and then you put the not at the beginning of it. It's a little confusing. Thank you for the person who brought this up. I think maybe we need some more discussion on that. Some people brought the idea of digital imaging and other toolboxes that we have in this section. We will go over them next week. So digital image processing, some graphs that we're going to be drawing, and also recursion. We're going to talk about the recursion a little bit here, and then we go over it next week. So we're going to have enough time to play with those things next week for those who have some concern. Actually, I like the way that Python does image processing. It makes the life a lot easier. And again, not that the other languages don't have it. It's just Python has some ways of doing it a little easier than the other ones. So we'll come back and look at that. The hand tracing, we coming from the old school, we were expected to do that. We had enough practice on those things. We unfortunately don't have enough practice over here. So the idea of that one, which the author of the book is very fond of it, is to go over the stuff without having your computer in front of you. It makes you think about things. It makes you to go over some stuff because what we do generally, we jump into the coding and we start with coding without doing the thinking. And when we do our actually thinking to do the design, and then when we do the hand tracing, I know it's a little annoying, it's a little more work, then we are concentrating on the process. We are not thinking about the coding. And when you do the coding, then you don't have to worry about these things. You just want to be sure